If you've ever wondered what it's like to run a low-cost investigative agency in Botswana, then today's series is going to be for you. I'm going to be reviewing the #1 Ladies Detective Agency by Alex McCall Smith. Welcome back to Spencer Reads Everything. I'm your host, Spencer Duncan, and today I'm looking at the introduction to a series, the #1 Ladies Detective Agency. This series is currently at 24 books and is expected to continue growing. And I'm actually about halfway through, so this is meant as an introduction to this series as a whole. Admittedly, I would like to do every book in the series. However, there's going to be a lot of elements that are going to be the same from one book to the next, and I have to confess that I'm not sure how much of each individual review will have anything distinct from it. So I'm going to use this video to give you a few pieces of information that I think are really important for actually understanding the main characters and the general structure of this whole series, and we'll see how this plays out as I do individual reviews for each of the books. Obviously, the name of the book series says a lot about the book, the #1 Ladies Detective Agency. It's straightforward. That's the whole premise. But what's really important about this series is the people that are in the agency and the related characters within the series. At the heart of this book, you have Precious Ramawatse. I think that's how you say it. I'm not entirely sure. She is going to be the one that owns the agency, and she is going to be the one that is really the heart of all the different stories that are being told at any given time. However, the book doesn't call her Precious. It calls her, it shortens it to MME Ramawatse, and in any of the audiobooks, they pronounce the MME as Mama. So throughout the series, you hear her referred to as Mama Ramawatse. Of course, I'm having a hard time saying Mama Ramawatse, so I will call her Precious throughout the rest of this series, even though that is not what the book calls her. But I apologize for anyone that does have an easier time at pronouncing her name. So Precious is described as a traditionally built woman, which is obviously a euphemism for being quite large. It's going to be something that comes up frequently. Aside from that, we actually don't know if she's a particularly attractive individual. There are other characters in the series that they do discuss how attractive or unattractive they are, and we'll discuss them. Precious' strength is in the fact that she is very intuitive. She doesn't have any sophisticated training, and the fact that she decides to build a detective agency instead of doing something else is a bit of an anomaly to everyone else, but you quickly realize it's her ability to read people that makes her want to do this, and it is one of her greatest strengths. And that's going to be something that plays all throughout this series. Not only is she really good at reading people and getting things out of them, she's also just a very level-headed individual. And that is going to be one of the big contrasts that plays throughout the whole series, is a couple select figures that have just very controlled and very thoughtful demeanors, and then you have a few people that are a little more hot-headed, and that's going to be a constant balance that you see throughout this series. At the very beginning of this series, Precious's father, who is not actually in the series, but he had just recently passed away, and that is what causes her to start this #1 detective agency. She actually could probably buy a house or go back to school or do something with it, but she decides that this is the thing that she's most interested in, so she rents out some space. And then probably the second most important person that you need to know in the series is her assistant, who is Grace Makutsi, also frequently referred to as Mama Makutsi, and she is a graduate of the Secretarial College. She's an interesting character. She is one of the more aggressive and a little more easily angered individuals. She scores an unprecedented 97% on the final exam, and that's going to be something that she is constantly referencing. It is a major point of pride for her. It shows that she is incredibly competent at all sorts of secretarial work, and the series is frequently trying to show just exactly what that entails in terms of running an office, but she herself is quite keen on details as well. Although there's clearly a difference drawn between her and Precious in terms of their abilities to read people and, most importantly, their ability to control their tempers, because Mama Makutsi has a tendency to be a bit more brash and a little more aggressive when it comes to how she talks to people, and sometimes a little bit nosy. Those are the two main characters. Their relationship is a big part of the series, and it is one of the things developing throughout each of these books. The third character that's really important in this series is Mr. JLB Matakoni. He's a mechanic. He owns his own shop. He has a similar temperament to Precious, and so he is very thoughtful. He's very reserved. He does not lash out like we have with Grace Makutsi, or like his two apprentices, which are two other characters that play a recurring role, in which they have a tendency to take a little less forethought in the things that they do, and it shows that they're constantly obsessed with the things that teenage boys would be obsessed with. And then you have a series of other characters, and I won't go into each of them, not because they're not important, but because Explaining them would actually give away some pretty important plot points throughout some of these books, but you will definitely see more and more characters that pop up here and there. There are also a few other people and actually a few things that play outsized roles in each of the books, and sometimes they're not actually present, or like I said, they're things and not individuals. And the first and most important being Precious's father. Even though he has passed away before the series even begins, which is the whole thing that makes her building up the detective agency possible, but he is someone that she is constantly thinking about. And it shows that a lot of her thoughtfulness and her temperament come from him. And it's something that she's constantly thinking about and something that she is trying to emulate and something that keeps her going, and it keeps her pursuing the things that she is most interested in because she feels like it contributes to the legacy of not just herself but also her father, who she has immense respect for. Of course, Botswana itself is a recurring character throughout all these books. As far as I know, they don't ever leave Botswana, but that is going to be one of the things that they're constantly discussing in this series, is how important Botswana is to their identity, to their culture, and the way that they go around solving their cases is much of their identity as Botswanans plays a big role in that. There's a few other things like the fact that she has this white van, of which she is very proud of, and it appears to be on its last leg even near the beginning of the series, yet it is constantly being repaired and something that she is constantly concerned about because she feels like it's very important to her identity as well. One of my favorite recurring elements of this book is references to a detective book written by some American investigator that Precious has never met, but she holds his thoughts in high regard. So she is frequently reciting and citing passages from his book. And that's something that she is constantly trying to incorporate in her detective work. And that's something that continues to play out through these books. So who's this series for? It's for people that are interested in detective novels, although, and I don't want to say that the mysteries at the middle of the novels are not high stakes. She does frequently solve real crimes, sometimes dealing with murders or with missing people. But that is not the whole point of each of these books. Really showing her relationships with the people around her is also a big part of the book. And sometimes a lot of the mysteries that she's looking at has nothing to do with mysteries that she has been hired to solve, but has to do with mysteries that she is trying to figure out about her own life and about those around her. So I would recommend this for anyone that's interested in a good mystery novel, but they don't want to just solve the mystery. They're also interested in the individual that is solving the mystery and the people surrounding that individual. Also, I'd recommend this for anyone that wants a lot of books in a single series. These aren't very long books, but obviously collectively, we're up to 24. You have a lot to read if you're interested in reading the whole series. I love reading them. I'm more than halfway through them, and I have never had a problem where I'm like, oh, I don't want to read another one of these books. As a matter of fact, frequently I save them till the end of the month to read because I try to read a certain amount of books each month. And I know that if I haven't read these books yet, come the end of the month, I will have no problem getting through them in just a couple of days because I really enjoy reading them. I also think that if you're interested in an exploration of people's relationships and the way those relationships affect the way they work, the way they think, the way they run their household, and the way they identify themselves, this is a really good series of books to consider and continue any kind of discussion or thoughtfulness that you may be having about that. Who is this series not for? Well, it is long. And if you're a completionist like me and you are looking at 24 books saying, I don't think I can read all those, then it may not be for you. I do have one hang up about this series. I really, really like this series. I can't express how much I like this series, but I'm a little concerned because Alex McCall Smith, he is not from Botswana. He is some white dude from, I think, Scotland. And I feel a little anxious reading a book that I enjoy so much, whose all the main characters are Botswanan, being written by some dude that does not live there. And I don't know how well he does fully understand the Botswanans. I believe he did spend some of his youth in Botswana and in South Africa, so I think he has some familiarity. But I do get a little concerned at times when he is describing people's thought processes or interactions, and I think he has a tendency to sometimes make them seem a little naive in a way that might be a little, I don't know, but hints of colonialism or just hints of skepticism that I don't think I fully endorse. But I have refused to look into this because I really enjoy this series, and I'm afraid to find out if a Botswanan would say this is an unfair depiction of themselves or of the country as a whole. However, I would love to know what people think. And if you're a Botswanan, please let me know so that I can either feel justified in reading this series or I should reconsider the characterization of the Botswanan people and the country as a whole. If you have any thoughts, please let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification button. And until next time, keep those pages turning.